Hi again. This next one is called number 5, Hiding the Evidence. By the time I got home, my left eye was nearly swollen shut. I set my backpack on the kitchen table, then went into the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror. My eye looked like a ripe plum. There was no way of hiding it from my mother. I got a washcloth and wiped the blood from my nose and chin. My mother usually got home around 6:30, so I heated up a can of SpaghettiOs for dinner, grabbed the blue ice pack she kept in the freezer for her occasional headaches, and held the ice against my eye while I played video games with one hand. I know I should have been studying for my biology test, but after a day like this one, I just didn't have it in me. I really didn't want to talk to my mom about my day, so I heard the keys in the door. I ran to my room, shut the door, turned off the lights, threw off my shirt, and crawled into bed. She called for me from the front room. "Michael?" 20 seconds later, she knocked on my door, then opened it. I pretended to be asleep, but she didn't fall for it. "Hey, pal, what are you doing in bed?" "I don't feel well," I said. I pulled the covers over my head. "What's wrong?" She turned on my bedroom light and immediately saw my torn shirt on the floor with blood on it. "Michael, what happened?" She walked over to my bed. "Michael, look at me." "I don't want to." "Michael?" Reluctantly, I pulled the covers down. Her mouth opened a little when she saw my face. "Oh my, what happened?" A lump came into my throat. Jack and his friends wouldn't leave me alone. "Oh, honey," she said. She sat down on the side of my bed. After a minute, she asked, "Did it, happen?" I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to upset her more than she already was. "I'm sorry, Mom. I tried not to. But if they wouldn't leave me alone, they were trying to pull my pants off." She gently brushed the hair back from her face. "Stupid boys," she said softly. I could see the worry on her face. "Well, they had it coming, didn't they?" A moment later, she said, "I'm sorry, Michael. I wish I knew what to do." "Why won't they just leave me alone?" My cheek was twitching, and she gently ran her thumb over it. Then she leaned forward and kissed my forehead. "I wish I knew, son. I wish I knew." Number 6, the morning after. My radio alarm clock went off at the usual time, 7:11. I had my radio set to the morning zoo show. The host, Frankie and Danger Boy, were talking about people who suffered from banana phobia, the intense fear of bananas. I gently touched my eye. The swelling had gone down some, but it still ached, and so did my heart. I felt like I had betrayed my mom, and I worried that we'd have to move again. The thought of starting over filled me with dread. I couldn't imagine how hard it would be for her. I went into the bedroom and I looked in the mirror. "You look pretty sorry," I thought. I showered, I got dressed, and I walked into the kitchen. My mother was standing next to the refrigerator, dressed in her orange work smock. She was a checker at the local Smith's Food Mart. She was making waffles with strawberry jam and whipped cream. I was glad. Not just because I loved waffles, but because it meant that she wasn't mad at me. "How's your eye?" she asked. "It's okay. Come here and let me see." I walked over to her and she leaned forward to examine it. "That's quite a shiner." She pulled a waffle from the iron and I made you waffles. "Thanks." I sat down at the table and she brought over a plate. "Would you like orange juice or milk to drink?" "Can I have chocolate milk?" "Sure." She went back to the kitchen counter and poured me a glass of milk, then got a can of powdered chocolate from the cupboard and stirred some in. The sound of the spoon clinking against the glass filled the room. She brought the glass over to the table, then sat down next to me. "So, these boys were picking on you, Jack and his friends. Do I need to call their parents?" "I don't think Jack has parents. I think he was spawned." She grinned. What about the other boys? They crawled out of the sewer. So it would help if I called the sewer creature parents? I cut a piece of waffle and took a bite. No, it wouldn't just make it would just make things worse. Besides, I don't think they'll be messing with me anymore. Do you think they'll tell anyone what happened? No one would believe them anyway. I hope you're right. She looked across the table. How are the waffles? Good, thanks. I took another bite. You're welcome. Her voice was pitched with concern. Did anyone else see what happened? A girl. What girl? She's in one of my classes. She was telling them to leave me alone when it happened. The look of anxiety on her face made my stomach hurt. After a moment, she stood. Well, I guess we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it. She kissed me on the forehead. I better go. Want to ride to school? No, I'm okay. Just then there was a knock. My mom answered the door. Austin stood in the hallway. Hello, Miss Faye. Good morning, Austin. You're looking sharp today. Austin pulled in his stomach. He thought my mother was a babe, which made me crazy. Austin was 15 years old and girl crazy, which was unfortunate because he was short, chubby, and a geek, which is pretty much all you need to scare girls our age away. I have no doubt that someday he'll be the CEO of some Fortune 500 company and drive a Ferrari and have girls falling all over themselves to get to him. But he sure didn't now. Thank you, Miss Vay, he said. Is Michael ready? Just about. Come on in. He stepped inside, dwarfed by the size of his backpack. Hey, Austin, I said. He looked at my black eye. Dude, what happened? Jack and his friends jumped me. His eyes widened. Did they pants you? They tried. High school, my mother said. You couldn't pay me $1 million to go back. She grabbed her keys and purse. All right, you boys have a good day. Stay out of trouble. Thank you, Miss Faye. See ya, Mom. She stopped at the doorway. Oh, Michael, we're doing inventory at the store today, so I'll be late tonight. I'll probably be home around 8. Just make yourself some macaroni and cheese. No problem. You sure you don't want to ride? Austin almost said something, but I spoke first. We're fine, I said. Okay, see you later. She walked out. Your mom is so hot, Austin said as he sat down at the table. Dude, shut up. She's my mom. He pointed to my face. So what happened? Jack thought I ratted him out to Dahlstrom. So he and his posse jumped me behind the school. Wade? Austin said bitterly. You should have just zapped him. I put my hand over his mouth. Shut up. You know you're not supposed to know. I know, sorry. He looked over at the door. She's gone anyway, he said, and his face brightened. Hey, I got the multimeter from my uncle, so I can test you. Austin had this idea about measuring how many volts of electricity he could generate which frankly I was curious about too. Cool. Seriously, dude, I don't know why you hide your power. It's like having a race car and you have to leave parked in the garage all the time. Why even have it? You could be the most powerful kid at school. Instead, you get beat up. Well, Jack and his friends won't be bothering us anymore. Austin looked at me in surprise. Did you do it? He says, yeah. Cool. Man, I wish I had been there to see you hand down the righteous judgment. I took another bite. If you were there, you'd have a black eye too. If Wade didn't pants you first. He frowned at the thought of it. So does your mom know you used it? Yeah. Did she freak? Yeah, but she was cool about it. She's worried that someone might find out, but she doesn't want me to get beat up either. They started it. I just finished it. Speaking of, are you going to finish those waffles? There's extra in the kitchen. Cool. My mom made gruel for breakfast. What's gruel? It's punishment. Really, dude, it tastes like wallpaper paste. I think they feed it to the prisoners in Siberian gulags. Why did she make it? Because she ate it when she was a kid. But your mom's waffles? Oh, baby, they're the only thing better than how she looks is her cooking. Dude, stop it. Austin shook his head. I was born in the wrong house. He threw 2 waffles on a plate and brought them over to the table where he drowned them in a sea of syrup. Did anyone else see you do it? Taylor Ridley? The cheerleader? Yeah. What did she do? She just stared. Wow, I wish I'd been there. He took a massive bite of waffle and syrup dribbling down his chin. Did you study for the biology test? A little in detention. How about you? Don't need to. It's all right here. He pointed to his head. Austin had a 4.0 grade point average only because the scale didn't go higher. If his body matched his brain, he'd be Mr. Universe. Do you have detention today? I have detention for the next 4 weeks, unless you can figure out a way to get me out of it. Maybe you should just shock Dahlstrom. Only in my dreams. Then just then, the front door opened and my mom leaned in. Michael, can you give me a hand? Sure, what's up? Just come outside. Need some help, Miss Vey? Austin asked. You stay put, Austin. I need to talk to Michael alone. Austin frowned. I got up and walked outside, shutting the door behind me. What's wrong? I left the car dome light on all night and the battery's dead. Can you give me a jump? Oh my gosh. Can you give me a jump? He says, sure. I followed her out of the building and across the parking lot to our car, a 10-year-old Toyota Corolla. She looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then she climbed inside and popped the hood. I lifted it the rest of the way up and grabbed the car's battery terminals. Go ahead, I said. The starter motor clicked until I pulsed, which is what I call what I do, pulse or surge. And the engine fired up. I let go of the battery. Mom raced the engine for a moment, then she stuck her head out the window. Oh gosh. Thanks, honey. I shut the hood. Sure. Have a good day. She pulled out of the parking lot. Oh gosh. I gotta stop right here. Bye. Yes. Hi guys. I left off, quite abruptly last time. Let me see if I can find my spot. I probably won't be able to, so I'll just repeat a little bit of what I said. Okay. I have detention for the next 4 weeks, unless you can figure out a way to get me out of it. Maybe you should just shock Dahlstrom. Only in my dreams. Just then the front door opened and my mom leaned in. Michael? Can you give me a hand? Oh yes, I remember this part okay. Sure, what's up? Just come outside. Need some help, Miss Vey? Austin asked. You stay put, Austin. I need to talk to Michael alone. Austin frowned. I got up and walked outside, shutting the door behind me. What's wrong? I left the car's dome light on all night and the battery's dead. Can you give me a jump? Sure. I followed her out of the building and across the parking lot to our car, a 10-year-old Toyota Corolla. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, then she climbed inside and popped the hood. I lifted the rest of the way up and grabbed the car's battery terminals. Go ahead, I said. The starter motor clicked until I pulsed, which is what I call what I do, pulse or surge, and the engine fired up. I let go of the battery. Mom raced the engine for a moment, then she stuck her head out the window. Thanks, honey! I shut the hood. Sure. Have a good day. She pulled out of the parking lot as I went back inside. Austin was still at the table finishing his waffles. What was that about? He asked, his mouth full. Car battery was dead. And you started it up? Yeah. That's so cool. At least my electricity is good for something. It's good for jack repellent, Olson said cheerfully. I looked at him and frowned. Stop eating. We're going to be late. He quickly shoved in 2 more bites, then stood. I threw my pack over my shoulder, then Austin and I walked the 5 blocks to school. Meridian High School was the 4th school I had been to since we moved to Idaho 5 years ago. On the first day of high school, my mother said to me, "Don't get in trouble and don't hurt anyone," which I'm sure would have sounded ridiculous to anyone who didn't know my secret. I mean, I'm shorter than almost everyone at school, including the girls. And I never started problems except by being small and looking vulnerable. When I was in the 6th grade at Churchill Junior High, a bunch of wrestlers put me in the lunchroom garbage can and rolled me across the cafeteria. It was Chicken a la King Day, and I was covered with rice and yellow gravy with carrots and peas. It took 5 minutes before I couldn't take it anymore, and I went off, as my mother calls it. I wasn't as good at controlling it back then, and one of the boys was taken to the hospital. The faculty and administration went nuts. Teachers questioned me, and the principal and the school police officer searched me. They thought I had a stun gun or taser or something. They went through my coat and pants pocket and even the garbage can, but of course they found nothing. They ended their investigation by concluding that the boys had touched a power cord or something. None of the wrestlers got in trouble for what they had all done, and all was forgotten. A few months later, my mom and I moved again.